Hello everybody and welcome. I thought it'd be a nice way to kick off my channel by breaking down my top 10 films of 2021. I know this is a bit late as we're 20 days into January, but I still want to break it down as I thought 2021 was a very interesting year for film. Before I break down this list, I just want to say I have not seen every film that is released in 2021. There are a few films that I have not seen that probably would have made this list if I had seen them. Films like Licorice Pizza and Belfast are things that I have not seen yet. This is also strictly my opinion. It might differ from yours, but I'd love to hear your opinion down in the comment section. Also, there might be some slight spoilers for some of these movies. I'll try to keep it very low on spoilers, just, not too bad, but there might be some sprinkled throughout. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 10 is Nobody. When I first began to look back at the year to make this list, I completely forgot that I even had saw this film. It came out earlier in the year. I did a quick rewatch of it, and I remembered just how great it was. I actually didn't even remember liking it as much my first viewing as I did my second viewing. Bob Odenkirk is one of my favorite actors. Better Call Saul is one of my favorite shows ever, and he is probably the most unlikely person to play a role like this. I see a lot of people comparing this movie to John Wick, and I kind of agree on that comparison. The movie plays out like a John Wick film would play out. The action is very similar, the way it's shot, the way that it's choreographed. But Bob Odenkirk being the star of this film is probably why it works best. I mean, the whole point of the movie, it's in the title. It's a guy that is seen as an everyday Joe, as a nobody, but somehow turns into this lethal killer. His character keeps all the quips of a Saul Goodman type guy that you would expect from Bob Odenkirk, but he also has this serious badass background. Although I don't think this film is anywhere near as good as the three John Wick films, I think it stands really, really strong as its own little spin-off movie, and I kind of hope they make this into a little bit of, maybe get a sequel out of it. Fun watch, I definitely suggest watching it. Number 9, Bo Burnham's Inside. Now, this honestly could have been number 1. It was honestly probably the best thing I watched all year, but since it's more of a comedy special and not really a movie, I'm going to keep it a little bit lower. But I really wanted to talk about it. I really, really, really wanted to get this on the list, so here it is at number 9. Bo Burnham is one of the best artists working today. The man is an absolute genius at everything that he does. Whether it's comedy, whether it's film, whatever this man touches, it usually turns to gold. This is a guy that's probably going to be taking over the world in the next decade. I'm really, really excited to see what he does. This small special is really, really masterful. I mean, every single song, every single camera cut, every single shot, every second was intricately crafted by this once-in-a-lifetime genius. It's hilarious. It's sad at points. It's really, really depressing as it takes this really deep dive into everybody's mindset throughout the whole year and everything that was going on. I mean, this thing has it all, and if you haven't watched it yet, I mean, just take some time out of your day. Go take a deep dive into this baby. Bo is really incredible. He's such an inspiration for people trying to get into the world of creating. But yeah, Bo Burnham's Inside. Definitely go watch it. Number 8, Spider-Man No Way Home. All right. It had to be on the list. It just had to be included. Spider-Man No Way Home delivered possibly the greatest theater experience of all time for me. I also don't think I've ever been more excited to actually sit down and watch a movie. I mean, I was talking about this movie all year, almost every freaking day. I was thinking, or at least talking about this movie just a little bit. I won't spoil anything, but, the reasons why this movie's great. I mean, come on, the big fan service moments in this movie just completely work. I think they land extremely well, and the theater reactions were absolutely amazing. I think a lot of the story, the actual plot in this movie leading up to those moments, I think it's just, it's okay. It works well enough for the movie that they were crafting. I don't think it's anything mind-blowing. There's a lot of plot holes that you could literally pick at throughout, but it works. Also, I gotta give some props. The cinematography in this movie, it's some of the best the MCU has to offer. I mean, there are some shots in this movie that are absolutely excellent, specifically the one with Peter in Times Square with the rain falling down. I mean, there are some really, really beautiful shots in this film. The score as well is absolutely amazing. Overall, this is definitely one of the better Marvel films. It was definitely the best Marvel film from last year, and honestly, everybody's already seen it, but if you haven't, check it out. Number 7, The Harder They Fall. This one I feel like not enough people are talking about. I don't think enough people actually watch this one. This Netflix film is absolutely excellent, and I personally think it's the best Western I've seen in a few years. Now, I gotta make the obvious comparison, alright? Django Unchained is one of my favorite films ever, and this movie almost feels like a love letter, a spiritual successor to that film. Clearly, the director, the writer, they clearly had that movie in mind when making this. I mean, some of the scenes, some of the dialogue, the way everything flows, it was clearly an homage to that movie. But man, what a stacked cast, and the cast in this movie is incredible, between Idris Elba, Regina King, Jonathan Majors. Lakeith Stanfield is excellent in this film. Idris Elba as well, an incredible antagonist in this movie. I mean, the action scenes are really, really great. I mean, the train escape sequence around the middle of the movie is one of the best I've seen in this kind of movie. Everything about this film just really, really works for me, and I feel like this is a film that probably should be talked about more. I feel like more people should be, you know, excited about a really, really good Western, but unfortunately it's not. So, you know, everybody go watch The Harder They Fall. Number 6, Don't Look Up. Although I completely understand a lot of the complaints with this film and a lot of the reasons why people don't like it, I can't help but personally just absolutely love it. I love Adam McKay. I'm a big Adam McKay fan. He continues to be one of my favorite filmmakers. I really, really liked Vice. I'm a big fan of The Big Short. Of course, Anchorman. This film really completely worked for me. I mean, it's 2 hours of this Hall of Fame class of actors having just the time of their lives, just improvising and just having a great time with the story. Everyone looks like they had so much fun making this film, and overall, I thought there were some really hilarious moments that really stand out for me. Is the messaging a little bit on the nose, a little too on the nose for my taste? Of course it is. I mean, do I keep rewatching specific scenes, though, from this film because they make me laugh hysterically? Yes, I do. I think Jonah Hill is absolutely incredible in this movie. I think Jennifer Lawrence is great. Leonardo DiCaprio, of course. Overall, I think this film is a real crowd pleaser, personally, and it's an easy film to watch, and definitely one of the better movies I saw last year. Number 5 is Tick, Tick, Boom. This was definitely one of the more surprising films of 2021. There were a few musicals released in 2021, and this was definitely not one that I thought was going to be the best heading into the year, but it definitely ended up being the best. I'm a big Andrew Garfield fan, so I was definitely excited to see his performance in this movie and see if it could live up to his career, and oh man, it does. For me, it's probably my second favorite performance of his, right after Silence. Andrew just puts up a legendary performance, and what surprised me the most is how much he made me care about Jonathan Larson, a person who I did not know much about before watching this film. After watching the film, I learned a lot about him, I learned a lot about the man that he was, and it really inspired me. The music is really great, the cinematography is excellent. Andrew's performance really, really carries the film, though, but overall, really, really good movie. Number 4, A Quiet Place 2. This was one of the first films I saw in 2021, and at the time, I thought it probably was going to end up being my number 1. It does land here at number 4, but that's really nothing to take away from it. This is straight up one of the best sequels of all time, in my opinion. One of the best sequels ever made. I'm a really, really big fan of the original film, but I do think this film is actually stronger. It really takes this world that was really, really small and crunched down in the first movie, and it slowly starts to expand it in this big way where we get to see more of the world and more people that are living out there and how they're living. It starts to open up more of the lore of these alien creatures and how they're going to defeat them as a society. Cillian Murphy is brilliant in this film and probably my favorite character from the universe so far. The extremely tense moments and the horror elements of this movie actually really, really work. I'm really excited to see what they do in the third one. This feels like a trilogy, right? This feels like part 2 of 3 parts, but I am excited to see what they do next with this franchise, and I really, really was a big fan of this movie. Number 3, Last Night in Soho. I just want to open this by saying I am a huge Edgar Wright fan. I mean, Baby Driver is one of my favorite films of all time. I love Shaun of the Dead. I mean, the trailers for Soho immediately had me excited to see this massive project that Edgar Wright had been working on. Now, I'm happy to say the film completely worked for me. First, I'd like to point out the fantastic performances by Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie. Matt Smith, particularly, is also really, really great in this. I also love the script. I mean, it's really chaotic. It's fast-paced. I mean, the way scenes jump back and forth. It's a very Edgar Wright type script. It flows almost like a musical piece, which is a really big Edgar Wright type feel in all of his movies. I love how colorful the movie is. I love the cinematography. I think it's really, really great. Everything is intricately tied together, and it just, I don't know. The movie really works for me, and I know a lot of people had a big issue with the ending, and they didn't feel like the ending stuck the landing, but I don't know. I thought it worked. I enjoyed where they went with the story. It kind of caught me by surprise a little bit, but overall, I thought the conclusion was satisfying. I enjoyed the movie as a whole. This is one of my favorite movies from the year, and I definitely recommend going to watch it. Number 2, Dune. Going into 2021, I had Dune as my most anticipated film. I really believed this was going to be the best movie of the year, and the fact that it is number 2 is more of a props to my number 1 than it is to Dune not being good enough. Denis Villeneuve may be the best filmmaker working today. He probably is the best. The man is an absolute inspiration. You watch any of his movies, including Dune, you could just see the passion oozing out of the film. I mean, between Blade Runner, Arrival, Sicario, you could feel his passion for this. Dune is such a grand project. I mean, the book is so huge. It is such a massive story. It's something that really shouldn't work as a film, but Denis is able to tell this story in such a fantastic way, and I mean, this movie is just absolutely massive. This movie is the definition of why movies are made. They're the only way you could watch this movie is in a movie theater, and that is the reason why it is so great. It is the definition of why movie theaters exist and why movies are so great. But just talking about the actual movie, I mean, Timothée Chalamet, really, really great. The rest of the cast is really, really awesome. The cinematography is obviously absolutely fantastic. I mean, a lot of the CGI is amazing. Hans Zimmer just drops one of the best soundtracks maybe ever. Of all the Part 1 style films ever, you lay out every single Part 1 type film ever made, this is easily the greatest one ever. And I know there's a lot of limitations to making a Part 1 type film, because Part 2 is always better. Part 2 is where you get to the, you get to the fun stuff, the ending. But this movie is absolutely excellent. I think it ends at the perfect spot. I do personally feel like it feels like a complete movie. I know a lot of people argue that it doesn't, it feels like half a movie, but I feel like I watched a complete story that is leading to a sequel, not necessarily like it stopped in the middle of a story, in the middle of a movie. Overall though, Dune is absolutely incredible. Everybody should go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. It is an experience that you need to have. And number 1 is Nightmare Alley. My best film of 2021 comes from star director Guillermo del Toro, one of the greatest directors working today. This is also another film that I feel like nobody's talking about, which really confuses me, because Guillermo del Toro is one of the best ever, and his movies are typically more popular when they come out. This is a remake of a classic film, and del Toro recreates this dark story in such a masterful way. Now, I went into this film not knowing the original story, and really not knowing absolutely anything about this film, and not really expecting anything, but this film blew me away. I got absolutely everything that you expect from a del Toro film. I mean, the absolutely top-notch production design, the insane cinematography and imagery, the great effects. I mean, everything that you expect Guillermo del Toro to deliver in a movie, this movie delivers. What surprised me about this film is just how strong the performances are, and the script is in general. I mean, Bradley Cooper puts on, in my opinion, the best performance of his career. Cate Blanchett is also just really, really great in this movie. The writing in this film is so strong. I think the pacing is really, really great. That is kind of my issue as well, though. The second act of the movie is a little bit slower than the extremely strong first act and the masterful third act. But other than that, I mean, the film is one of my favorite movies that I think I've ever seen. I mean, it is a really, really great movie. I don't know if it's my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. I mean, I think Pan's Labyrinth is still ahead of this, but this is probably number 2 on his, on his list of movies, which is really saying something, is Guillermo del Toro, his filmography is just absolutely ridiculous. Altogether, though, I feel like more people should be talking about Nightmare Alley, especially it delivers one of the best endings in a movie I've ever seen. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. It seems like people that have seen it really love it, so it's not like a hot take to enjoy this movie. But I do hope more people see it. I do hope it gets more buzz, maybe from the Oscars. But yeah, altogether, Nightmare Alley was a special movie, and for me, it was definitely my favorite film from 2021. So that's pretty much it. I'd appreciate it if you guys can hit the subscribe button, maybe turn on notifications. I'm going to be doing some movie reviews. I'm going to be doing maybe other top 10 lists, maybe some ranked videos of directors. I don't really know what I'm going to do with this channel, but I'm excited to start on this little bit of a journey to make some content that hopefully people will enjoy. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.